Okay, everybody, welcome back. I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon and The Blackest Heart. Both books published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today, I'm going to be reviewing James Lee Burke, Black Cherry Blues. This is book number 3 in James Lee Burke's Dave Robicheaux mystery series set in Louisiana. This came out in 1989. Now I've got the entire Dave Robicheaux series down here. It's about 24, 25 books. They're all right there. I've got the entire series there. Just thought I'd show you that. Put this back, hopefully it won't fall. So anyway, we're to book number 3. If you want to see my previous reviews of books number 1 and 2, just type in my last name, Durfee, and type in James Lee Burke, and the reviews will come up. In fact, James Lee Burke is one of my favorite writers of all time, and the fact that he used his middle name is one of the reasons I stuck with my middle name as my professional author branding. Brian Lee Durfee, James Lee Burke. I did it because of this guy. And that's my real name. Let's talk about the covers. You know, the covers of the James Lee Burke series are kind of all over the place. None of them match. They're all different. This one's different as the rest. It's got a cover by Wendell Miner. He was an illustrator back in the 70s and 80s. I think he did a lot of the Stephen King books early in the day. Anyway, why did I want to read another James Lee Burke? Well, because I'm going to reread all of them for my channel to leave a review eventually. But I wanted to get down into some good Southern mystery. Takes place in Louisiana, down New Orleans. I wanted a nice, juicy, sweaty Southern mystery. Because I've been watching a lot of the TV show Ozark. And I'm like, James Lee Burke's books are kind of like that. I'm going to get into some more James Lee Burke right now. So I started reading this. Turns out it starts in Louisiana, but ends up in Montana. The story takes us to Montana. I've been reading all sorts of Westerns this spring, and I wanted a break from the Westerns. So I go to this one, and it takes me straight out west. Anyway, what can you do? What can you do? Foiled again. So Dave Robicheaux is our main guy. He's a policeman in Louisiana. He's 49 years old in this book. And this is only book number 3. There's like 20 more books. So by book 24, I think he's like 70 or something and still on the job, solving crimes. Anyway, one of the things that I noticed right out the get-go is he's 49, he's in a diner, and the young server, the young little waitress, flirts with him a little bit and smiles at him. And he feels so flattered. It makes his day. It brightens up his whole day. I'm getting to that age, folks, where I understand and can relate 100% to that scene right there. Anyway, Dave is haunted by the death of his wife, which happened in books 1 or 2. I won't tell you which. And he speaks to her. He still sees her in his dreams and in his visions. And there's a bit of the supernatural. One of the things that you're going to notice about James Lee Burke novels, and then James Lee Burke admits this, they're not all on the up and up straight mystery novels. There's just a thread of the supernatural that weaves its way through every single one of his books. And I think that's the magical part of these things, is because Dave Robicheaux, our policeman, he's haunted constantly by the death of his wife, and he talks to her constantly, even though she's dead. And he's also got this young daughter named Alifair that he's raising, which causes complications in his life whenever these mysteries and murders and things get a little out of control. He's got to also watch out for her. So what happens is he runs into his old friend Dixie Lee. Now, Dixie Lee is a guy that used to be a college roommate of Dave Robicheaux, who went on to become sort of a one-hit wonder pop star. And they run into each other again at this bar, and Dixie wants Dave to do some favors for him. Now, there's this, one of the reasons I love James Lee Burke novels is this, just sort of the introspective pieces of writing, just the stuff, it's not just the gunplay and the explosions and the murder mysteries and the gruesome murder scenes and all of that stuff that you expect with mysteries that are just surface level things. One of the things I love about James Lee Burke is he gives you really great insights into what's happening inside the characters' heads and what they're thinking and what they think of each other and what one character thinks of the next. And a lot of great, just wise life philosophy and some really up philosophy too. That's why I love this. But I wanted to read this one passage because when Dave Robicheaux is wondering if he should help his friend who was a one-time pop star but is now a drug addict, in and out of trouble with the law. He's just not a good dude anymore, and he's gotten himself into some deep trouble, and he's like, Dave, you got to help me. And Dave is like, this is what goes through Dave's mind. And I think it's just brilliant writing. And it's just a paragraph long, but it teaches you so much about Dave as a policeman and his friend Dixie Lee, who's a drug addict. So, Dave thinks to himself, I am not going to get involved with his troubles. When you use, you lose. It's a mean lesson, but when you become involved with an addict or a drunk, you simply become an actor in a script they've written for you as well as themselves. That's just so on point. And if anybody is out there has been involved with, I work at the state prison, I work among a lot of addicts. And you're just sort of like a player in their script. You're just sort of like they are the star of their show, and while they're an addict, and they will just steamroll over everybody in their path because the high is the important thing and nothing else is. You're just an actor in their play. And I love the way that he put that. It's just absolutely perfect. Anyway, Dixie's in trouble. He's asking for Dave Robichaux's help. Dave is like, well, it seems like Dave, first of all, Dave is getting framed for murder himself in the process. I mean, as he's trying to decide to help his friend, he ends up getting framed for murder. He heads to the, he ends up in prison himself, but then he gets out. He heads up to Montana to help his friend, Dixie. He actually does go to help his friend, his addict friend, Dixie. And the mystery has ties to the old oil company that Dave Robichaux's father used to work at, mafia goons, federal agents. All of these become his enemy. The oil company's his enemy. The mafia goons are his enemy. The federal agents are his enemy. He's still framed for murder himself. And then he's also talking to his ex-wife, who he thinks is a spirit, that is a ghost. And there's a supernatural element throw in. Anyway, just a great, I just wish they hadn't taken it up to Montana. Don't know why they did. Didn't need to be. I wanted to read a juicy Southern Gothic mystery like all of the other Dave Robicheaux, James Lee Burks, and they took a trip to Montana. Now, I read this book a long-ass time ago, and I vaguely remembered, yeah, one of the Dave Robicheaux books does go up north to Montana. Actually, I think there's a couple. Where he travels out of New Orleans to do a bit of investigating. Anyway, this is a good book. This is a greatly written. I don't know if that's even a phrase. It's a very good written. It's a very well written mystery novel. Type of mystery novel I love. I love James Lee Burke's writing. I love Dave Robicheaux as a cop. I love everything about it. I'm going to give this one a 9.0 out of 10. was going to say 9.5, and then I'm like, nah, I got to back it down a little bit just because I didn't want to go to Montana. I didn't.